And
there's a
here we
station.
are.
Oh,
Radio
shit.
Primavera Sound is open for business. We have one of the bands that has created most expectation for today. Today's first day of the festival, even though yesterday was the inaugural bowl. Today is the Thursday, the legendary first day of the
First official day of Primavera Sound 2026. And I have to say that I love the spiritual sound of Ecstatic Black Metal band Agriculture.
Welcome.
Thank you
Thank you very
Welcome
much.
here.
Pleasure to be here.
First time in Spain playing, right?
Yes.
It's our first
Yeah.
time playing here. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, how has it taken you this long? Considering that Spain is quite a strong country for metal bands, no?
Really? I don't think so.
Okay, so Sergi's the expert.
I'd
here.
love to, but that's not true.
Okay.
What's exactly Ecstatic Black Metal?
What is it?
Yeah.
Great question. Yeah, it just I mean, we sort of decide. Look, it's a little bit of a joke, right? I mean, the thing that's fun about metal is that you can call your band, your genre, whatever you want. You know, like so when we started the band, we were just like kind of having fun with it. You know, like it's kind of an inside joke for metal people that we all know the difference between depressive funeral doom and just regular funeral doom. And so like we were just like you could just call it. Yeah, we just call it whatever we want, and so it became so there was a little bit of a joke, and then the other part of it is I think it is actually pretty descriptive, especially of our first record and the EP Living Is Easy we put out, where this idea was that if you take the sort of ingredients of black metal, which are playing guitar hella fast and drumming really fast, it does have kind of an ecstatic effect.
Yeah.
Similar to certain kinds of chanting or dancing or something like that. When you're just pushing really hard and really fast and making a lot of noise, it creates a really special space that can be really sort of feel like you're leaving your sort of normal body and in a little bit of a different, more ecstatic experience. So that was kind of it. It's like I think like kind of everything we do as a band, it's a combination of really sincere and also like. We like to think we and our audience are in on the joke a little bit,
Yeah. What was each of yours entry point into sort of metal music, shall we say, in broad terms? Were you like 11 years old? Was it a 9-year-old thing? Were you like and what did you find alluring about it?
I mean, for me, it was pretty early. I grew up in the East Bay, in California, where you have bands like Metallica, like all of this. There's like the legacy of thrash music. So when I was a kid, I practiced in the same practice spaces like Testament and Exodus and these things. So thrash was like kind of always around. Even I was in high school in the early 2000s, and it was still a thing, kind of like as a local culture. So I was very drawn into that. A combination of that and obviously like the first time I heard like Van Halen, I was like, oh my gosh, like it just sounds so cool. The guitar playing is just incredible. And then from there it was like, lots of thrash, lots of like Iron Maiden and things like that. And then one thing led to the next. And when I was like, I think I was 15 years old when Hate Crew Death Roll from Children of Bodom came out, and I listened to that record constantly. In fact, there was like a 8-month period when the only way I could go to sleep was by listening to that record. And, honestly, this kind of speaks to what Dan was saying, answering your question about ecstatic black metal and just like music's sort of ability to sort of soothe and heal in a certain way. The kind of counter to what you would expect, maybe. For me, music that's really kind of intense and complex has always been really relaxing for me, because I think I'm like my brain is always just like kind of running, and it's like the idea that something else is just like really complex and like everything is taken care of, it makes me just like feel better. Like I don't have to do anything. So anyways, so for me, I was a young or like early teenager when I got into metal, and part of it was just being around sort of metal scenes with like a strong legacy, and then part of it was just as a hyperactive kid who loved playing guitar. It was like, it just made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. What about you, Leah?
When I was young, my first love was punk, and so I was really into a lot of hardcore punk, power violence, grindcore, stuff like that. And it really part of the thing I loved about punk was the like raw energy of it, and that you could just sense that like
through and through of just like the rough recordings, the shouting, the sloppy playing is all sort of things that I loved. And so then when I started to hear metal and try to check it out, I would like listen to these hugely popular metal bands, and everything's like, you know, you have the clicky drums, you have the like really tight playing, technical playing. I was like practicing doesn't sound angry to me. Like just grabbing a guitar and being loud sounds angry to me, you know, like that's to me. So I didn't relate to the aggression of metal until a little bit later. And my sort of entryways through it were through like grindcore bands like Napalm Death. And then the more experimental side of metal, bands like Portal or KO Dot really kind of like helped things click for me. And then from there, I sort of discovered that there was a lot I did love, even about the super technical and precise and progressive side, and really started to get into that more. But yeah.
What was your sort of first contact?
So first contact. I remember when I was a teenager, I needed a ride home from school. And so this older kid was like, okay, I'll give you a ride. And as we were walking to the car, he said, do you like Metallica? And I said, no. and then he punched me. No. And said, why not? And I was like, I don't know, but that doesn't make me like it more. So it wasn't early. It wasn't until later.
Yeah. Dan, what was your sort of, was it like an elder brother situation or?
No, I'm an only child. I mean, I actually, it's funny you say that. I had my best friend did have an older brother who was really into metal, and we just thought it was funny. And I think that is kind of a fun thing about metal, is that like if you're not sort of in on the joke of it, you can kind of I don't know, you like think you're making fun of it by like being like, oh, this is ridiculous. But everybody who does metal knows it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's what's fun about it. So it's like this kind of like when I was outside of it, when I was a kid, we used to make fun of his brother because his brother would be listening to bands, you know, that just had ridiculous names like Dying Fetus, you know, or Necrophagist. Like, and, you know, we were just like, yes, it's so overwrought. But it's like now that I reflect on that, it's like actually just like kind of boomerang back to like we were being dumb for not understanding that it's funny to call your band Dying Fetus. Yeah, so I don't know. I thought it was, I wasn't into it until I was a grown up. And I think, I guess for me, I got into it like as a songwriter. Like it solved a lot of problems that I had as a songwriter because I was more interested in writing music. You know, as a kid, which I mean, ages 0 to 23 or something. I was very interested in my feelings, you know, and I was trying to write music that was about that and about feeling and, you know, just how intense the experience of being a person for the first 25 years of your life is. You know, everything you're feeling is for the first time and it's all really intense and you want to write about it. And I wasn't very good at it. And I kept writing these really kind of poorly constructed, overwrought, emotional songs. And as I got older, I was looking for a way to write music for grown-ups. And that was kind of a phrase that was going through my head a lot. And black metal kind of clicked for me in that way because I realized that it created this kind of, the blast beat in particular and the distortion creates this like level playing field where you have this energy that moves forward, but you can then have melodies that just go forever and you can scream so that, you know, which can be intense, but it can also be a little bit neutral. Because if you're screaming, it sounds really intense for the first 5 seconds, maybe a minute. Mm-hmm. But at a certain point, you get used to that the guy is screaming. And then it becomes, you don't understand it, and it becomes this other textural element. And so it became a way of sort of exploring the more steady but still emotionally complicated experience of being an adult. So and also that you have a little bit of I think as you get older, you develop a little bit more distance from yourself and your experiences, maybe because you've experienced things before. And so yeah, there's that ironic distance that you can have in metal where you can be really, really, really fucking serious about what you're talking about and also understand that it's funny to be screaming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it became so for me, the entrance was really like, as a songwriter, I realized that there was stuff that I could do. So it wasn't that I wanted to write like Dark Throne or something like that. I didn't want to write about the same stuff, but I was really interested in using a lot of those techniques to create something that was more that was kind of a spiritual music.
Because in fact, your solo music, your solo project is way different than agriculture.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also like I think kind of the same. Like in the sense that it's like still like mainly concerned with like lots of layering of distorted guitars. You know what I mean? But yes, it is different, and I think it's way less cool. You know what I mean? Which is not just because of like, I think that actually gets to an interesting point, which is that like, no matter whether it's me or Leah who's like starting to write a song, because we both write songs in the band, like I think it really is an extremely collaborative band. You know, just in the way that we play, like everybody has their hands all over everything that we're doing. You know, which is why like, you know, my solo music is not nearly as interesting as what we're doing, is because yeah, I mean we're really like a band.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Full band.
And
Totally.
Yeah, and super cool that because you can really hear the difference between the raw and parts that come from Leah, and the technical parts that come from Richard, for example. Like, no, that's super cool to feel it in your music.
I think also we've discovered that as we've played together more, like that there's like all of us have these different powers, if you will.
And we all have different points of connecting to each other within like what each other do and are like especially adept at, or where our tastes line up and don't line up. I mean, the four of us have like very different tastes, but you know, it's like a four-way Venn diagram where also the middles meet, and like there are certain bands that like some of us hate, some of us love those, and like and I think that comes into play within collaboration, is like, you know, any two of us can link up on an idea and be like, that's the thing we need to explore here. And then we start like exploring in that direction. And yeah.
Do you think there's any bands we all like?
I think we found one.
Which one?
Well, we all like Miles Davis.
We all
Oh,
love
yeah.
Miles
Love
Davis.
Miles
That's
Davis.
true.
Yes, absolutely.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think we all really, and like kind of his whole, like all of his music. We all love Miles Davis.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a guy in a Miles shirt. That's cool.
Wow.
That's a nice thing to have happen right
That
now.
happens.
Yeah.
Shouts out to, they can hear us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shouts out Miles Davis. He doesn't, it's not, nope.
No, it's not in the
So yeah.
He's a poser. He doesn't know who
big
Miles
fan of
Davis
Miles
is.
Davis.
He just thinks he has the American unit of measurement on his shirt.
No.
I wasn't expecting to be Miles Davis, the union point.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
like kind of it. I mean, we all like the Velvet Underground.
I think
think
there's
so.
a lot of things we all like. It's just tough
Yeah.
to think of stuff at the. I do remember a moment at a festival where we played, we packed up, we all went our like different ways, and then we all text each other saying, "Are you watching this band? This band's so good." And it was Yahweh
Nail Gun.
Yeah,
we
we
all like
were all
that
just
band.
kind of in different parts of the room
Yeah.
and sort of had our own experience, which was a fun kind of like.
We see a lot of bands live that we all love.
Yeah.
Like we're like a fan of like a lot of our contemporaries, a lot of bands we play with, stuff like that. But just in terms of like our the musical DNA and the bands we're like, you know, been lifelong fans of. And it's really varied tastes, and like depending on who's driving the van,
Yeah.
the aux cord there could be a lot of whiplash and what.
Well, and you like
what
kind of
we're
know
hearing.
too. Like I'll put on something and I'll be like, "Oh, Leah's gonna love this," and like I know Dan's gonna hate this, but like
Yeah.
that's okay. Or like, you know, what? Or there'll be like some reference to like contemporary classical music, and it'll be like a me and Dan reference, and it'll be like, "Oh yeah, that's you know." It's just there's always kind of like there's something, and I think at this point we almost kind of know what the other person is. So I'll like put something on, I'll be like, "Oh man, like Kern's gonna dig this."
Yeah, we
You
know how to punish each other.
That's kind of what I'm saying.
Like, because sometimes someone's been a little bit of a bad boy or girl, and so we have to play music in the van to punish them.
What would be a typical punishment for, like a general punishment?
It's just me playing only Bob Dylan.
that's not
It's
totally
actually-
true.
Oh yeah, or Richard
something-
playing something really fast.
No, even crazier. Something recently happened. Something recently happened in Seattle. Kern put on the theme song from Frasier, and Dan hates it so much he literally got out of the van.
I just couldn't. I was like,
in motion,
We were at a stop sign. We were at a stop sign, and he walked out. And we were going to drop Leah off where she was staying, and so like 15 minutes later, Dan calls like, "Hey, where are you?" And we're like, "Where are you? Like, where did you go?" So that was like just like a few weeks ago.
you guys know that song?
It's because I've got the Seinfeld.
That song,
No, that's good.
Whips.
Everyone loves
Yeah,
that.
that song, that's really good.
And the Frasier song's even better.
Yeah, the Frasier song.
If you like that, you're gonna love.
It's like
salad and scrambled eggs.
Yes.
like I hate
I
this
got it
song.
again.
I can't deal with it. It's like it does.
Even had to take his headphones
No,
off.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's like whatever the opposite of like ASMR is to me. It's like I don't know. It's like eating.
It's like the mouth sounds thing.
Oh yeah, when
Yeah.
someone's eating like mayonnaise sandwich, like
Yeah, that I kind of like. That
Who
sounds
eats a mayonnaise sandwich?
you know, when it's got lots of
Yeah,
mayonnaise and
yeah,
your mouth is all like
Sticky, yeah.
yeah.
But it's cool. Like I feel like we get to know. Like there's a lot of music that because we spend so much time with just the three of us. We don't when we're in the States and we tour a lot. We don't travel with a. I meant me plus the three of you. It's just our three-member band.
I do think like the knowing what each other don't like is also really useful for collaboration.
Yeah.
Because if we like want to explore an idea, it's just like if I'm bringing something into practice and I'm just like, I know this is a anti-Dan idea,
Totally.
but we got to work on this. Like Kern knows what's up. He gets where I'm coming from here. Like, let's just work on that. Let's get this. Let's see through it. And then like it develops out of there to where then like all four of us are like, okay, I see what's happening here. But like there's that like, once you get an idea of what each other tend to like or not like, it like there's less friction in the collaboration because no one needs to say like, I hate that. I think that sucks. It's just like, yeah, I know you're gonna think that sucks.
Yeah.
But it could be interesting. For instance,
Yeah.
give me an example. Like, are we talking like rhythm patterns or certain sound textures for certain guitar parts and stuff? Are there things that are like no-go areas?
I mean, we can do whatever we want, and I think at the end of the day, we do a pretty good job of being like, okay. Like sometimes there's something where it's like Leo bringing a song that I'm like, I actually think this is bad. I don't think this is a good song. And then, but like I respect and trust and love Leah enough to be like, but I believe that it will get to a place that when you are satisfied with it, it will be a good song. And that makes it sound really easy. We have had a lot of like difficult cups of coffee together. You know what I mean? Being like, yeah, just like let me do. You know what I mean? Like working that collaboration out has been tricky, but also like really, really cool. And that is also the most exciting thing about being in a band, right? Yeah. Is that you get to like engage in like pretty contentious conflict and emerge out of it. Because like at the end of the day, like we need each other. But like one just to give you an anecdote would be, I remember when I brought in My Garden, which is the first song on our new record. Mm-hmm. I remember, just like showing it to Kern, and Kern just at a certain point put down his drumsticks. Was like, Dan, I gotta tell you, like, I really hate this. Like, this just, I don't think it sounds good. It reminds me of like the bands I hated in Orange County, and like I feel like I don't know, like. You know, you look bad, and like it was just like
he said you were smelly.
He's called me. Yeah, he said I was stinky.
I don't know if these were my exact words.
Yeah, said some weird stuff about my family, and then
oh my god,
no, it was crazy.
None of this is true.
All of this is
except that I didn't like the song.
Yeah, but then it was just like, and I just remember being like, totally, just please keep going.
Yeah,
and, there's Colin and Megan.
Yeah, you encouraged. That's fun. Yeah, you were like, I think it's gonna keep taking shape. Let's do something with it, and it did. And it's quite a bit different than when it was in that state.
Totally.
And it like came to be a song I'm really excited about.
Yeah.
No puedes no verlas, ¿verdad? Dejan huellas que no se borran fácilmente. Juegan como si el tiempo no fuera con ellos. Sin decir una palabra, pero aún así te obligan a parar y mirar. Se quedan en tu cabeza, mucho después de que el show termine. Por más que las persigas, simplemente siempre estarán un paso por delante. Superstar. Superstar, de Adidas Originals.
Because I mean, there must have been cases where you've kind of laid out the basic raw structure of a song, and 3 months later, it's a completely different song, right?
I think more often than not.
That's the usual thing, in fact, no? It's
Yeah.
That's definitely the usual. Yeah, that's for us. That's kind of it is the usual, and it happens in different ways, but that's always how it happens. And I mean, another element here, talking about the collaboration, is the production process. For us, that's a huge part. Everything is produced in my studio and in LA, and we, there'll be days, working on the spiritual sound. There were days when it was just me and Leah, days when it was just me and Dan, days when it was all of us, and there's a very real part of that when it comes to sort of shaping things, when we hear it back on tape and we're like, maybe doing overdubs or laying down vocals, and it's just like, oh, like maybe this actually needs to go somewhere else, or maybe this is, and there's this like constant sort of pushing around of things and hearing it back on playback. I mean, we're fortunate to be able to work in this way because, literally it's not done until we say it's done, and then it's done, and there's no limit. We do it until it's done. And yeah, like that is kind of obviously that's the final part of it, but it happens everywhere sort of along the way. As Dan says, sometimes somebody will bring something in and somebody else will be like, I don't know about this, but we like, it goes through the agriculture filter, as it were, right? Like, because as you mentioned early on in this interview, everybody has such a different kind of perspective, like in terms of taste, but also like technique and the way that everybody's hands work in a slightly different way, or whatever, the gestures that we're used to. And yeah, that goes really beginning to end, to even just like, could this reverb be like half a dB lower? Like, I remember one of the songs on the first half of Spiritual Sound, Leah and I had, I think, like maybe it was 5 or 6 different reverb chains set up, like very extensive, with like the tiniest, like one of them had like a quarter note delay on it. One of them was like a dotted eighth delay. One of them, and it was like they were ever so slight, and we were just like fading them in at different parts on different words, just because it needed to sound like just so. And like, is there a massive difference between that and like just like having 1 or 2 reverb sounds? Like maybe not, but to us, like being deep in it, and to Leah's ear, her being like, that's not right. No, that's it, and just kind of pushing. So like, it's everything. Like every note is considered, from the beginning of bringing it in and hashing it out together, to laying down tape in the studio, to then producing it, to mixing it, even in the mastering. It's just like, could this be a little brighter at this section? Like everything is considered, and it's all collaborative.
That's so cool. You've talked about van life before, and I want to know about Richard's van guitar.
My van guitar?
Yeah.
Okay. That was my solstice/Christmas present to myself this past year. So I went into Guitar Center to pick up something that I had like ordered. And when I was waiting for them to prepare it, I was just sitting and I was playing a few guitars, and there was a headless guitar in there. And I was like, I've never played one of these headless guitars. It's like one of the Strandbergs, or like one of these like really expensive, fancy headless guitars. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to spend $5,000 on this, but wow, I love this idea. And I was like, wait a minute, I could play this in the van, because my absolute favorite thing to do, of course, is play guitar. And like, I was like, this, and we spend so much time. So November tour, when we were with Boris and then headlining, we spent so much time covering all of the United States. Like, there were some days when we were in the van for 10 plus hours. And I was like, man, like this is like valuable practice time. Plus for me, it's like kind of like a self-soothing thing. So when we got back, I ordered one, and it's been with me on every tour since. It's awesome. It's so much fun. Yeah, I can like roll out of bed, play a little bit in the hotel. I get into, usually first thing I do when I like sit down in the van, I open it up and I just like start playing. I just like, I don't know, sometimes I play along with what's on the radio. Sometimes I actually like practice scales. A lot of the time I just like kind of like soothe myself playing it while I'm just like looking outside. Yeah. Well, yeah.
and you guys feel the same?
Are you enthusiastic about the van guitar?
I am.
Yeah. Totally.
Because there's this solo he takes that I think it stayed written a certain way for a long time.
2 or 3 years, maybe.
Yeah. And then since the van guitar, it just would change night to night on tour, because I was like, oh, he's just practicing this.
He's like finally getting good.
Yeah.
That's kind of my hope, is that I'll be able to
After years
to learn how to play this instrument.
Yeah.
After years of bumbling around.
Yeah.
Now
Takes a
these
lifetime.
Yeah, after years of playing, 30-second notes at 190 BPM, he's finally getting into the big leagues at
194 BPM.
But it's funny because we never asked this to other bands because bands that have been touring for ages, you never we see you guys play and it's like obviously you guys know what you're doing, right? But I always wonder, do musicians keep practicing all their lives when they're even
it's a great question.
with like with a little personal ambitions of I want to nail like complicated scales or try new things out.
I mean, I think it depends on like what kind of musician you are. Like, I think you figure that out at a certain point. Like, Richard is like a guitar player. You know what I mean? He's really fucking good at guitar. I'm like not really a guitar player. I'm pretty good, but it's not exactly how I think of myself. Like, and so when I practice, I feel like I practice songwriting. Like, I pick up the guitar and I write songs, and I think it's a pretty similar process to how you practice, where you're just. Yeah, it is like a practice of writing, and that is a particular skill set that you develop over time. But I don't really practice scales very much unless I feel I need to get better, which happens sometimes. Like for sure, there are moments where it's like I've written something that I can't play, and then I like have to practice in order to be able to do it. But I think it depends a lot on like what kind of like what do you want out of the music. You have to pick up your instrument though. Like you can't just like let it sit. But what practicing looks like can change a lot depending on your relationship. And it really is a relationship. You know what I mean? Like you have to develop some kind of intimacy with your instrument. And I think that looks different for all four of us.
Absolutely. It's definitely a relationship. And I mean, just like feeling, because it's not always like hyper technical. Like there are days when I am just thinking about bends. I'm like, do bends with the distortion, do bends sound a little bit cooler? Like a quarter tone or eighth tone out? Like if I go a little sharp, does that sound is that edgier? Like if I pre-bend it sharp a little bit and then pull it down, like is that cool? Like these little things. And as you say, it's like it's this thing it's this almost this game you play with yourself, because like as long as all of these greats have existed, you have something to constantly look up to and to like aspire to. And there are these all there's all of these great musicians you can think about. It doesn't even just have to be guitar players. And you just like think about, so like the other day I was thinking about bends, like I said, and I was just like thinking about approach and like how to do it. And I was like, well, what about, how do other string players do it? Like how do wind players do it? Prepping the embouchure. And I was like, okay, what's my version of prepping the embouchure? And how do I, and again, like day to day, like, is that going to make a huge difference on stage? Like, I don't know, but that's a big part of my relationship to the instrument.
I love that you said sometimes you don't do things that like nothing technical. You just think about whether a bend is a quarter tone.
Yeah, to me, that's more expressive than technical maybe, but you're right. I stand corrected.
Going back a little bit to the black metal thing, you used to play with hoods and corpse paint at the very beginning.
Capes, no?
And capes and
The robes, yeah, full on.
robes,
Yeah,
like the
you're
full-on
right.
regalia.
you still have the swords and all the things, but what happened to the corpse paint and the hoods?
Yeah.
Mine's in my closet.
Yeah, it's true. I think we thought it was cooler to be playing this extreme crazy music dressed the way we actually dress.
Yeah.
We thought there was something you could relate to a little bit more about it, and then something a little bit more startling about it. So like the hoods were like, it was part of the ritual, like part of the function they serve as in all sort of black metal, extreme metal type of stuff, where you're like setting the space aside and doing something different. But I think the first time we played without them, we were like, oh yeah, it's like pretty crazy that we like now we walk on stage, we just look how we look, and we're doing this intense extreme music,
Yeah.
So
But that has cost you something, because we were talking about this. You get sometimes compared with bands like Death Heaven
Liturgy.
or Liturgy, and I work with him. He's a proper death metal enthusiast nerd and stuff in the best sense of the word. I'm not trying to make him look bad, but sometimes there's this in the really purist metal circles. You have been described as, this is hipster metal.
Yeah,
right?
we think those guys are posers. We're real metal.
We're true metal.
Yeah.
You know what? I want to answer that real quick. I want to say something
Address
about that.
it.
I am going to address that for just a second. And you don't have to agree with me. Nobody has to agree with me. But to me, music is about the sounds that we make, right? Music, for me, primarily is not a costume party. It's about the sounds that you make. I think you should be allowed to dress and do whatever you want, however you want. Yeah, there were periods of my life when I wore all black. I remember a girlfriend in college when I was an undergrad was like, we have to take you shopping. Like, all you have is black. I was like, yeah, it's my favorite color. She's like, that's ridiculous. Like, you're an adult. You can't be doing it. And I was like, what are you talking about? This is fine. But, it's one of those things that, mad respect to anybody who feels like they need to present in a certain way and they need to fit in. If that's what you need to do to feel right in this world, like, I get that. Like, Lord knows I've done the things that I have felt like I've needed to do to feel comfortable in spaces and to fit in and everything. Not that I've had a lot coming up against me. Like, let's be honest, like, my life has been relatively easy. But I will say that for me, like, my big answer to that is like, I thought this was about music. I thought this was about sound. Like, do you like the sound or do you not like the sound? Like, I could be a frog, right? Like, if I make the sounds that you like them.
You could put a bucket on your head.
I could put a bucket on my head. You know what I'm saying? So, like, it doesn't, like, that's just the one thing I'll say. It's just like, I feel like we're all like music heads. Like, the thing that matters is the music, is the sounds. Like, the rest is like, it's kind of secondary to me.
Yeah. But another thing that also might have separated you from the purist metal kind of wave is the fact that you've toured with Alex G, who's performing tonight, and his sound is nowhere near as extreme as yours, right? Alex G has his sound. No one would immediately imagine Agriculture and Alex G on the same playlist, which
Sure.
Yeah. Tell me about your relationship with Alex G. Where does this stem back to?
Yeah, I mean, I have loved his music. I was sort of vaguely part of the same music scene as him and the wonderful dudes in that band since like 2013 or something. Because I was going to college on the East Coast of the US, and there were a bunch of bands at that time. There was a really great sort of indie music scene at that time. And it was sort of like all around these like different liberal arts colleges there, and in New York and Philly and all these different punk houses of like Alex's band and Pine Grove were some good homies of mine, and Porches was the other band that was like really just like really exciting band music. Yeah. And there were a bunch of other cool bands doing stuff, but it really was just like a vibrant scene. So my friend used to play drums with Alex. Shouts out to Dexter. And like, yeah, just known the music forever. And yeah, seen them in tons of basements when I was like 19, 20, just like really sweaty, tiny venues. So it's cool that like, the first 20 times I saw Alex play was like, yeah, really like in living rooms and basements. And then we just did this tour playing like 2,000 cap rooms with him, which is really cool. I think, and I've loved the music the whole time. I think he's an incredible example, especially that last record is an incredibly good example of grown-up music. Yep. It's really, really emotionally attuned, special, beautiful music. And he's been doing that for such a long time. It's incredible music. But I also think like we felt the same way, right? Like when we were starting that tour, we were like, what is this going to be like? But what I think we realized is like what we're doing and what those guys are doing is actually not that different. At the end of the day, it's just like four people playing their instruments on stage and for lack of a better word, rocking out. And yeah, I mean, that's something that's really exciting to us. I think we're really excited about the idea of being a rock band where every sound that you hear, we are making. And that's exactly what those guys are doing too. And Alex's set is a lot heavier than like the stuff that you hear, that I think is like you would expect to hear on Spotify or whatever,
After a few nights, yeah, I stopped. I kind of forgot that we were a really different band, just the way the audience responded.
Yeah. I also think he has a pretty young audience right now, like a lot younger than what we're used to. And there was something really exciting about that, where that audience was there for music. They were just excited that music was about to happen, and they like a lot of them maybe didn't know who we were when we got on stage, but like as soon as we stepped on stage, they were stoked. Anytime we played a big chord, they were stoked. And like that was really cool. And it kind of, I think, goes to like what Richard was saying about like the purist metal attitude of just like these kids just like are excited about music and really couldn't care less if it's like what playlist it might go on or what genre category it might be. And I don't know if that's a generational thing. I don't know if that's like an age thing, like something you sort of age out of, but like it was really exciting for us because I think we first and foremost just think of what we do as like we want to make music that is interesting to us and that is follows what we're excited about, and the sort of freedom of like, okay, like yeah, there are just these things you have to do that are just musical. They are not it's not like we gotta play by the black metal playbook. We gotta like, you know, do something that makes us indie enough to like go on an Alex G tour or anything like that. It's just like, no, we're just gonna do what we do, and if we're excited, other people will be too, you know?
I think that's the other thing is like live music operates on a fundamentally different level than recorded music in that way.
Yeah.
That like at the end of the day, like it's really exciting to watch people making music.
Yeah.
And like that's something that, you know, is just you know, making a record and going on tour to me are like almost totally different activities. In the same way that listening to a record and going to a concert, they're completely different. And so I think that there's a lot of open-mindedness that you find in a concert hall that you simply don't find I don't know, like on a playlist or on your phone. You know what I mean?
Totally amen to that.
And before letting you free, your band name is Agriculture.
That's true.
I have to ask you about your favorite tractor.
Yeah, great question. We have a friend in our band in the band Knoll, incredible grindcore band. You know this band. Jamie, the lead singer, his wife went super viral for being a goth girl sitting on a tractor. And
That's our favorite
That's our
tractor.
favorite.
That's so cool. And the best answer.
Was it a John Deere or?
I think it was it's a
Probably.
John
I think
Deere.
John Deere is the only tractor maker in the U.S., right? Not the only, but the most
It's
popular.
iconic.
We're
It's
the
the
only one-
Coca-Cola of
It's
tractors.
the only one we know.
One we know.
I wasn't supposed to say this because it's I guess we can announce this now. We got a tractor coming out. Our new merch is going to be the agriculture heavy metal tractor.
We've partnered with Ferrari.
Yeah. After the failure of the Ferrari electric vehicle, they've decided to move
They need
into
a
agriculture equipment and decided to partner with us. So looking forward to.
That's so cool.
But
Thank you, guys.
But the follow-up question to the tractor, please. You have
Oh
to
yeah,
ask it.
and your favorite crop.
Our favorite crop, marijuana. That's not true. Can we cut that?
Well, it's a crop. It's something that grows, and plus, it's becoming super harvested now in the U.S. Marijuana's legal
It's
in the
the
U.S.
only store you see in shitty towns in America is like a weed store called like Bigfoot's stump.
Stash.
Yeah. Exactly. No, and it's like an AI generated picture of Bigfoot.
Oh God!
It's really dark.
Well, first American flag made out of hemp.
Yeah.
The sails on the ships that beat the British made out of hemp.
Yeah. George Washington was all into the hemp thing.
Yeah.
And who was it who had that monologue about Martha Washington would be preparing blunts? That was in Dazed and Confused in the movie when, it's like,
Great film.
Martha Washington would spark up a big fat. Anyway, sorry.
That's fun to
I'm a
imagine.
big fan of potatoes.
yeah, Leah's a big potato girl.
I love
Put that
tomatoes.
out there.
Tomatoes.
I like dates.
Oh yeah.
Dates, Here we get them
Peaches,
from Morocco.
a miracle.
Oh, peaches.
Well, if we're
Whenever
talking
you,
peaches-
whenever you
Really
eat
good.
a
Nectarines.
peach, nectarines as well. Whenever you eat a stone fruit, it is a miraculous and spiritual experience. If you really close your eyes and enjoy a peach, and think that it just grows, it's stunning.
Yeah. Out of that stone, and it was and all that juice.
Is that how that works?
Yeah.
It grows out of the stone?
Yeah.
Because if you bite it, it has the shape like the I haven't actually studied it.
That's-
But
Oh, yeah,
but
yeah,
usually,
the-
they're
the little
small.
seam
So it
there,
goes out.
yeah.
Anyway, we could be talking about agriculture, fruit and vegetables.
Well, real quick, I do want to shout out bananas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, bananas.
Huge.
Thank you,
Potassium.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Let's
Leah.
see you at
9 o'clock.
Yeah, 5 to 9, I think,
Yeah.
at the
9.
Port State.
Port Stage.
Port Stage.
It's a shame it first It used to be called the Steve Albini stage.
All right.
In its first year. Now it's the Port stage.
R.I.P.
But this is all Steve Albini's house. Thank you so much, Agriculture.
Oh, thanks so much
Thank
for
you,
having
guys.
us.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much.
All right, so long, y'all.